Hello and welcome back to the second installment of where we're going to take the suspension and we're going to modify the suspension on this 1950 Chevy 3100 pickup truck. We're going to convert it over to bags. So on this episode, we're going to take the rear end, we're going to ditch the leaf springs, we're going to install a 4-link suspension along with the air ride. That way we can have the whole truck can be adjusted. So let's get started. All right, so let's get you guys in here and show you what we got to work with. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove the fenders. That way we have plenty of room to get in there and work. So this is a early 80s Chevy C10 frame. So we've got a 60s Ford Mustang fuel tank. I've got the full custom exhaust that I've built in my front driveway here. So as you can see, the leaf springs, leaf packs, somebody has modified it far before I got it. And they are not exactly doing leaf pack things. So we're going to ditch that. This is a very old shock. This is has the original little swirls cut into it. We're going to have to relocate. This is my charcoal canister, homemade charcoal canister that I made for the fuel tank. We're going to have to take this off. We're going to have to mount him somewhere here. That way we can get the wheel tucked up inside the fender. So I've got a C-notch kit that we're going to install. And we're going to have to undo the leaf packs. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to cut the leaf pack front mount off to be able to fabricate the 4-link system. So we'll get into those when we get to that point. But for right now, what I want to do is mark on my frame where my center of my axle is going to ride up so I can know where to have the center of the C-notch. Now that we have the fender off and that gives us room to maneuver around in here, the first thing I did was put an angle finder on the frame so we can get the correct angle that the frame is sitting at. Then took my carpenter square, rested it up against the side of the axle, put the angle finder on the side, and got the correct angle and marked it on both sides. Then we know that the axle is a 3-inch rear end. So if I did my measurements correctly, that should put it right at 3 inches. So that tells me that I am super close to being fairly accurate. So we know that this is being 3 inches, 1.5 inches is dead center. So when I get my C-notch put up there, I'll know exactly where to set it so I can mark it out. And I know at some point somebody's going to ask what this is. What this is my charcoal canister. So when I first got the truck up and running, I just had it vented with a little fuel filter on it, which when I came out here to the garage, the whole garage would be full of gas fumes, which didn't make my wife happy. So what I did is I bought one of these cheap little overflow tanks from Amazon. I lined the inside of it up with stainless steel mesh and the bottom, and then I filled it with activated charcoal. You can see down in there, kind of see in there, the little activated charcoal pieces. I can smell the gas fumes. And then I took a PCV valve, just a generic PCV valve, stuck it in there. And then, so this comes from the fuel tank into the bottom. This goes to a hard line, goes along the frame, and ties in with the air cleaner. So when the engine is off, the gas fumes will go inside this tank. It'll just kind of, the charcoal will soak up the fumes. And then once I start the truck up, the vacuum from inside the air cleaner we'll pull a vacuum on here and it will suck fresh air in. It'll open that petcock up and it'll draw fresh air in and down the tube, and it will clear out any fumes, and it will take all the fumes out of the charcoal and just kind of rejuvenate it and recycle it, and it starts the whole process all over again. So kind of like how modern cars do it nowadays. Of course, theirs is all computerized, and computer opens and closes flaps. I just needed something that was simple, and when I kept it parked, it wouldn't just smell like gas fumes. So that's that, because I know somebody's going to ask. So the next thing we need to do now is cut off this bump stop mount and get the frame ready for the C-notch, and I may have to go ahead and take that off and relocate it for the time being. So let's start working on that. I've also measured from the leaf springs from the axle to the rear leaf spring shackle, and that is 21 1/4. I wrote that on the frame, and then also measured from the frame to the inside of my brake drum, and that is 11 3/8 from the frame to here. That way I can at least try to get the axle centered up back to where it was from the factory. So now we are working on the passenger side. I've already got the driver's side C-notch put in place, but somehow I lost the footage to that side. So now we're just going to repeat everything onto this side. We've got the shock removed. I have the spot where I want the C-notch to go, and then I went up a little bit above that. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our drill, we're going to drill a hole in the corners. You don't want to go through and then just chop this and then chop this. That will leave you a sharp edge, and that can cause a crack. So if you drill the corners out, you won't have to worry about your frame breaking in those areas. So I need to get the rear end breather off. There is a bolt sticking up through there. And one other thing I realized is my exhaust will be in the way. I don't know how well you can tell, but see where that C-notch is lined up at, along with the exhaust? Come on, focus. So the exhaust will be in the way, so we're going to have to modify the exhaust and get it up and out of the way. What I may do for the time being is just chop it for the time being and just have it elbowed down. So we'll see how that works out. Now let's get these two holes drilled out, and then we'll take our grinder, cut-off wheel, and we'll cut that out to fit the C-notch. I went through and I plugged off and made sure all the fuel connections and everything, there wasn't no gas fumes. There's hardly anything left in that gas tank. So hopefully there won't be any explosions today. Now let's put you on time lapse and see what happens. Now that we have the frame cut, now we can set it in place. What I did have to do is notch out for my wooden frame mounts. So now what we got to do is we got to mark our holes and drill our holes for our bolts. Now that I drilled the small pilot holes, then I'm going to step it up to my 1/2-inch bit, drill out the bigger holes for the bolts. Well, while we wait for that paint to dry, I've got one of the 4-link pieces just kind of crudely bolted together. The instructions state to leave the leaf backs in place. That way it keeps your rear end centered. My issue with that is that needs to go right here. So either that and this whole, I need to bring the axle up. That way when I install these, they'll be level at the right height that I want. So that will require removing the floorboard, which is fine. That's easy to remove. Undoing that bolt, cutting all the rivets out. And the other issue, instead of just leaving the leaf pack in, the brackets down there will have to be welded to this. Meaning this will be in the way. Because where the 4-link's going to land is pretty much, boy, that traffic is horrible today. The 4-link will be roughly about where that previous suspension is, which should give me enough room for the shock. But boy, look at that shock. Tell me that ain't original. This is a 1981-ish C10 frame. I almost guarantee $100 that thing's either really close to factory or is factory. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is go ahead and jack up the rear end to where I need it. And I've got jack stands in place right there and on the other side, and that should keep me fairly straight and level. I also have my measurements written on both sides of my frame, on this side and on the other side. That way I can true it back up again. So I don't think I have a choice but to remove this because it's just going to get in the way. So let's start with the running board and we'll start unbolting the suspension. Well, that took a hot minute to do, but she's done. The leaf packs have been removed. The bracket is sitting down there that used to sit up here. I also had to cut off the spring perch off the axle just so I can get that to line up. And that's roughly where she's going to sit. So it looks like I'm going to have plenty of room for my shock. So the next step is attach this bracket to that square stock, weld it up. What I'll probably end up doing is drilling a couple holes in the top and the bottom, just enough to get it secured to the frame, and then I'll weld it in. And then once I get that welded in, we'll get this lined up, clean all this up. I'm going to go through and weld this up in here just to kind of give it more strength, where I remove the spring mount, and then we'll get this all welded in. All right, we're back. So I haven't got anything done because I decided that I needed to figure out how to mock up my airbags. And then I ran into a couple more issues. So this is one of the rims. Well, this is just a spare rim. There's the rims I'm going to be running on this truck. These are 17s, and I have to modify them, which I'm going to have a video on how I modified Jeep rims to fit a GM hub-centric brake hub or front hub or whatever. That'll be later in the future. But here's the issue I'm running into. See that here? It's right up against the side bed of the bed. So what I'm gonna have to do is put small tubs in this to get the tire to fit. Obviously, that's gonna be relocated. That'll probably be put more back here. And then the other issue I have is I have no room for an airbag. My exhaust, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to chop it right there because that is not gonna clear the frame, which is fine. I can just put turn downs on it for the time being. Kind of sucks because that's all brand new exhaust. But what I may end up doing is taking this bracket mounting it to the inside frame rail, moving this over, and having my airbags kind of closer to the differential. And that way I'll still have tons of room up here. So basically the top of this be more or less level with the top of the frame, maybe a little higher than that. Ding, Taco Bell. But crapola. Four-link has left the chat. I was really kind of hoping to have the airbag more to the outside to give the truck a little more stability. So don't think that's going to happen. I just don't have the room for it. I did think about angling the bag this way and then having this mount this way. Oh, close. Oh. But Taco Bell. I just don't think the bags will like the side loading, because they're meant for more vertical up and down. They're not meant for side loading like that. So looks like I got my work cut out for me this time. So let me figure things out and I'll get back with you. All right, so I've got the bracket just kind of tacked in so far. Went ahead and I added some extra welds to the back side and the front side just to kind of give it a little more structure, a little more strength. And then now we're going to get the 4-link bolted back up, and we're going to get it kind of mocked up along the frame to see about where we need it. All right, it's been a couple of days and quite a bit of rain later. So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and mount the airbags behind the 4-link on the rear axle itself on the outside of the frame. I thought about mounting the airbags on top of the axle inside of the frame, but I kind of like the idea of the bag being on the outside. After doing a bunch of measuring, I have plenty of clearance between the sidewall of the tire and the airbag themselves, so we're going to go that route. So what I did is I bought some 4x4 3/16 steel, cutting them out into this shape. And I'm going to weld this onto the bottom bracket. This is where the rear axle is going to sit. Then I'm going to modify the upper mount to fit the C-notch, and then have the bag sit just behind the rear axle, which should probably be closer to back here. But so what we're going to do is we're going to get that tacked up. We're going to get these finished made, get this tacked in, and mock it up on the truck to see how it's going to fit. Back at the house, and I've got everything tacked up. So I've got the upper bag mount welded to the C-notch. Well, just tacked on for the time being. I've got the 4-link just bolted on right now. This isn't even welded, it's just sitting in there in its place. And then the lower bag mount I have just kind of hanging out right there. So I've got plenty of room for my airlines up top. I just kind of have a jack stand holding it in place for the moment. Got one bolt holding the C-notch in so it doesn't want to fall out. So the way it's sitting right now when I add the bump stop to it, let's see if I can get a bump stop to sit in there. It's gonna literally sit on the bump stop with all the air deflated out of the bags. So, and this bump stop will crush quite a bit. These are the same bump stops I have on the front. So we're looking at close to 1 inch, 3/4 from fitting in there all the way. But I like how that sits. What I may do is grind this flat, grind this part off, cut it off. That way I can get it to sit more flush with the axle. That way the bottom isn't at a slight tilt. It'll be parallel with the top of the airbag mount. But I think that'll work out pretty well besides just cutting that off. So next step is getting all the brackets welded up. All right, now that I got everything lined up and everything where I want it to be, now I can start welding in my mounts, which I've got this one bolted in, but it's also prepped and ready to be welded in. I've already got the other side completely welded and painted, so now we're just doing this side. So now I just got to get to the back side of this one and the back side of this one, which I'll have to do laying down on my back, but that's okay. So that's how those are looking so far. Then we'll get on to tacking and welding that up. Alright, so after cutting off the tips of the muffler, that way I have room to get in here, I got the panhard bar mocked up, installed, welded, and painted. So I was going to record it, but there's literally no room. I'm only one man here. Don't mind the noise. It's the AC unit behind me. It's blowing on me. It's 104 temperature today, or close to it. So pretty hot and sweaty. Didn't want to have to fiddle with the camera. So we did get the panhard bar in. There's just ever so much room between the panhard bar and the rear differential cover. I did have to angle the bracket just ever so slightly, just so it will clear the differential cover. So let me climb out from underneath here and I'll give you a quick rundown of what we've got so far. Now for the passenger side, I want to remove these lock washers. They're the wrong size. So I do need to remove these, put the appropriate lock washers on, get those installed. Got the bag in place, got the 4-link in, got the panhard bar bracket. I still need to tighten that up, but that's okay. So the axle's been squared up. Everything is nice and level and looks good. Like I said, I got more new shocks coming. So I like it. I believe it'll work out pretty well. So next I want to fix a couple of studs on my drum on the driver's side before I can throw some tires on it. I do have some new rims, but I don't have new tires for the rims, so we're gonna have to rock the old style tires for the time being. Don't mind all the trash. This has been 3 days of brutal heat, working in the garage for 3 or 4 hours a night. So, and I need to get my brake line situated. Still a lot of work to do, but we'll get there. All right, while we're waiting on the differential cover to be delivered today, thought now would be a good opportunity to mount my air horn that my son got me for Father's Day. Just a little cheap Amazon guy, but if you understood the traffic around here, you'll understand why I needed it. So let's get this thing installed while we wait for more parts to come in. Spider! Get out here. Ooh, one more size bigger. What is up with the spiders? Get out of here. Take our little handy dandy tool. Which I hope I have enough room in here for it. Find out. Ooh, just barely. There's one. Ooh, echo in here. And what's nice about these thread certs, you don't have to have a nut on the back of them. Basically, kind of knurled on one on the back side, stick it down in a hole and you can compress it. It's kind of like a rivet. This one's going to be a little more challenging since it's a little taller up. And you don't have to have one of these nice fangled tools to do it. There's other ways of doing it. I've done it with just a normal long nut and bolt. But this tool just makes it so much more easier. Already a hole here that I can utilize. I won't have to drill another one, which might be okay if I can access it. Glad I did inserts in the other one. Size. Of course it's not the right size. That works. Alright. Air pump is installed. And then the wires are in the way. Airline. Now we're just going to hook up the wiring. Alright, let's see if we can read some of this Chinese wiring schematic. It's the ground wire, which I guess could have went to the body of that. Who would have thought? Well, guess we could always loosen it back up. Right. There. Well, let's try this again. Okay. Take two. Alright, there's the ground. Now they want me to do this. So it looks like yellow wire coming off the relay goes to positive, connect to original horn wire. Well, we're not doing that. And this connects to hot, which I will actually run inside the cab. And then these, I'm not going to hook it to my original horn. I'm going to hook it up to a separate button. just to verify that it's not going to get up into my tire. Oh no, plenty of room. Alright, so these wires need to run inside. And that should cover the air horn. Alright, so it's been quite a few days since I've messed with the 50s pickup project. So I want to kind of recap what we've gone over, what's been completed and done. We did get the gas tank vent relocated from here down to here. That way it gets it out of the way of the tire. I don't have any rubber line, but I did have some line that they use for the anhydrous pneumonia. So I figured if it can withstand anhydrous ammonia, it can withstand gas fumes. So that's just kind of something temporary until I can get a new rubber line put in. We do have the C-channel bolted in. We've got the bump stops in. We got the airbags in. We got the lines ran. We got the lines mounted. They go up front. I got some tidying up to do up front. The shocks are in. The shock extensions are in. The 4-link is installed and adjusted extremely accurately and close. We got the panhard bar in. I had to pull the rear differential cover off and weld the base of it, the bottom of it, because at some point in its life, someone backed into something and bent the cover into the ring gear and ended up chewing a hole in the differential cover. So we got that welded, we've got it painted, we've got fresh fluid in it. Oh, what else? I did have to chop the muffler extensions off, so we'll have to do something with that at a later date. So let's move over to the other side. Okay, on the driver's side, we got the airbags in, we got all the lines ran, we got them secured. 4-link is bolted up, welded up. Bump stops are in, the new rear shock is in place. So I think that pretty much tidies up the rear aspect of the pickup. I did put air in the bags. I put about 60 pounds in, and it did lift the truck up, and it stayed like that for about 48 hours. The passenger side does bleed off. I think it was down to about 50 pounds after 48 hours, so I'll have to figure out what's going on over there. So now that we have everything pretty much buttoned up in the rear, I do have some, what do you call those? Wheel pans, the rear bed pans. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to install them quite yet because I don't have tires for the new rims. I don't have the new rims ready to be bolted up to it. So we're going to throw the old tires on real quick and make sure that we have plenty of clearance, make sure the tires doesn't rub on anything. So I may have to take this and move it up a little higher and maybe more up into the fender area. But so we'll slap a tire on real quick and see how that looks. Okay, so the tire is in place. I just kind of hand tighten the lugs, but they're tires tight. So it looks like I'll have quite a bit of space back there for the time being until I can get my fender tubs in place. Because once I get the new tires in, they'll be in quite a bit and they'll probably end up rubbing that, and I don't want that to happen. So that looks pretty good right there. All right, so now the fun part begins. This box is too small. So what I did is I 3D printed a new longer box so everything can squeeze in and have plenty of room. Problem is, I've got to remove all the brake lines and the air lines and all the fittings in the back of the gauges and the switches just so I can switch it all out. That also includes putting in a new faceplate. This time I went with opposite colors, so we're going to have a black face and a white body. This is thicker, so this warped because it's too thin. So what we're going to do, I redesigned and 3D printed the new face cover and the new body. So now let's start the fun part. Well, that took me quite a bit to do. Now, the last thing we got to do is get the screws back into it and then secure all these air hoses up in the ceiling, ground out my lights for the gauges, run this down to my headlight toggle switch, and then this portion should be finished up. All right, so we'll get this tightened up. We'll come back. Okay, now that we got most of the screws in, apparently I'm missing one, but that's okay. I can go get another one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test the air compressor and check for leaks. All right, so I'll start with the rears. Put about 60 psi in it. Seems like the left one kind of goes faster than the right. So there's 60. Put some more air in my bags. All right, looks like the tank topped out at 60, so we're at 55 on the front, and it looks like it's settled down to just below 60 on the rear. See, the needles are not moving. And I do not hear any air leaks. Let me kick the air compressor on one more time. 100 psi. I'm going to kick these up to exactly 60. Just a touch over. That's all right. There you go. They're both a touch over, so I'm looking at 95 psi on the compressor tank. The rear has settled to pretty much exactly 60, and the front. Now, we'll keep it there and we'll see if she holds air. Now that we have it on the ground and I got it backed out of the garage, I went ahead and I aired down the front bags all the way, so that's as low as she's going to get there. And I realized that I can't lower the rears because my fenders are hitting. So I went ahead and ordered all new tires. So we'll get some new tires on there. Once we get the new rims on, the new rims will set in an inch. So then that'll give me plenty of clearance there. That means I will have to get my wheel tubs installed, because as you can see, my tires are really close to the bed of the truck. So boy, there's a lot of traffic out today. A week ago, I was involved in a pretty bad car accident. If you guys noticed in my previous video, an orange 2016 Toyota Tundra, I no longer have that truck. It has been totaled out. I was able to pretty much walk away from the crash. The front end of the truck was absolutely destroyed. Someone ran into the back of me after the accident. So all the airbags deployed. I got knocked for a hell of a loop. So I had a minor concussion. So in a couple of clips, previous clips from this, you'll notice I'll be kind of struggling for my words. So I'm trying to get my brain to process thought. So I am good now, but I am down a vehicle, so it makes this truck even more important to get finished. That way I have a driver to get back to forth and work. We have the Tesla, and we also have my wife's Jeep Gladiator. So it's not like we're down vehicles. I have a vehicle to drive, but obviously this is a lot more fun to drive. I have yet to finish up the air horn, and if you notice, brake fluid all over the place. Brake fluid down there. Brake fluid destroyed my air cleaner. Me and my son was trying to bleed the rear brakes, and the cap fell off, and he just went hog wild on the brake pedal and just absolutely covered everything in brake fluid. Oh well, it happens. So I've yet to install the air horn. I don't know if I ever showed you guys the engine of this. Probably not. But what I can do is fire it up and let you hear it. Inside the mess. Cheater, going about 650 RPM. Took my AFR is running a little on the fat side. My vacuum, I think with the cam in it, the vacuum's not going to be all that great. So there's that. So I think in the next few clips, what we're going to try to do is we're going to get the tubs installed, try to get them mocked up, put on. That way when I do get the tires, I should have it. Today's Thursday, tires will be delivered next Tuesday, so I got about 4 days to get the wheel tubs installed, and then we'll be able to drop it all the way down to the ground, and we'll just see how darn trash cans in the way. We'll see how low she actually gets. So next few clips will be me working on the tubs. Now that we got the truck back in the garage, now we can start installing the wheel tubs in the bed. So I got some 3/4 inch angle, flat black paint. So the goal here is to make a frame that will fit underneath this for this to be bolted to, and then once I get it made, we can go through and we can chop that and chop this out so we can cut the inside of the bed out. So we're going to do all this in time lapse because I feel like this video is already getting pretty long. So let's hit it. All right, let me show you how I'm building this. So I just took the angle, I cut a notch out, bent it. I cut a relief cut, and I cut a relief cut to go around those. Same on that side. So what we do is we slide that in. And we slide that in. And in theory, it's still hot. This will be pushed down, and that will be welded here. And this will be welded there. This will be welded there, welded there. And I'll probably just bolt this on, that way I can remove the bed rails. But these rails here are probably going to have to stay with this as one piece, which I'm fine with that. And then once that's in place, once that's welded, I'll go through and I'll cut this off. And then I'll cut this off right here. Same with this one. And I'll cut it up in here. So, and then after that, this will fit on like that. So, let's keep going. All right, so I got it all welded in, and I decided I was going to go ahead and just weld that instead of bolt it in. So I got all the lines protected with some wet shop rags. I've started to cut that in half, and my Sawzall blade broke, and I don't have any more. So I'm gonna have to run to town and go get some more. I did have time lapse going while installing that, but my phone decided that it didn't want to cooperate and did not record it. Oh well. So let me run to town real quick, grab some Sawzall blades, and get back at it. Now that we have the hole cut out in the bed, now we can fit the wheel tub in place, just like that. I did have to leave a little bit along the top, just so my fender bolt can stay in place. That, my cheap, poor little Black & Decker Sawzall, it's about ready to give up the ghost. It's about 99 degrees today, and that thing just keeps overheating and shutting down. But it eventually got it. So now we just got to figure out how we're going to bolt it in place. All right, so what I've decided is I'm just going to go ahead and just weld it in. So what I'm just going to spot weld it in. I drilled holes through the bottom and through the sides. What I'm also going to do, get my camera in there, is weld this fender bolt into place. That way I don't have to remove it when I want to remove the fender, because this literally sits right on top of that bolt, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get in there and remove it once I get this welded in place. So let's get to welding. All right, there we go. She's all tacked in and welded. She's not going anywhere. So now, rinse and repeat on the driver's side. Now, I haven't installed the other wheel tub yet, because I wanted to make sure that the new tires and wheels will actually clear this section up here. And judging by the gap I've got from here to here, and then judging the gap, covering the camera up, judging the gap from my airbag, it looks like I'm going to have plenty enough room up in here. And if you can see, if I line up this section here with the tire, there's not going to be much room. So I have to run wheel tubs with this tire and wheel combo. And if you haven't seen the video yet, where I took this 3 1/16 carbide hole cutter and modified a Jeep rim to fit. The problem with the Jeep rim is the hole centric in the center is too small to fit to a GM rear hub and front hub actually as well. So what I did is I drilled out the hole to fit a GM hub. I have that video posted up. I should have it posted up already. So go back through there and you can watch and see how I modified these rims to fit. So now that I know that I've got plenty of clearance, I'm going to go through and I'm going to install that wheel tub. Alright, now that we have it sitting on all 4 new rims and all 4 new rubbers, I don't have it fully lowered out to this point yet, but she does sit pretty low. Low enough to the point where I try to leave my driveway. My driveway has a little hump that my exhaust scrapes, which is fine. I can put 100 pounds on the front and then it'll climb over that hump just fine. So I do have some minor little touch-up things I got to do. I did go through, pulled all the front brake rotors off, new bearings, new races, new dust cap. The passenger side had to get a new brake caliper and a new brake rubber brake line. So I was having issues with it before, so I figured, you know what, I'm in there, I might as well just go ahead and replace it. So new pads, everything's redone. The brakes have been bled, which I need to do it more because it's got kind of a softer brake than it used to. So I imagine I probably still have some air in the line. So another thing that I went and did is I 3D printed these little dust caps, or these little covers. There's my new dust cap. So these are 3D printed hub covers. As you can see, there's a hole in the center there, and then these rims have 3 holes. I utilized one hole, tapped it for a 1/4 20, which I didn't realize I had this one upside down. They're not on yet, they're just kind of just sitting there. But it kind of gives the rim a nice aftermarket effect. Same way with the rears. So I like it. Took about 2 hours to design. The biggest part was trying to get the bolt pattern correct. It took a couple iterations on the 3D printer to get them lined out. I'll snap in a quick video on the end process of printing 2 here. Other than that, I think we're going to call this video finished for the time being. Just a quick little tease. Going to be installing a cooler, but that's not a normal cooler. Let me show you. That is a portable AC unit. So that video will be coming up sometime after this video goes live. And I think on that note, we're going to wrap up the build on the truck today. we will be having more videos on this because there's a lot more that I need to do. Obviously, painting it. There's a lot of stuff I need to do. I need to redo the interior. I want to redo the dash differently. So if you enjoyed this video, stay tuned. There's going to be more videos on this truck. I also have a 1953 Plymouth Belvedere, all original, still 6-volt system, and that's also going to get revamped. So if you guys sticked around to this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, and if you like what you're seeing, give me a subscribe. So thanks for hanging out with me. Have a good one.